Today is Thursday, February the 13th, and I mentioned in the video last night that I was going to talk about, I was going to look into cybersecurity stocks as an opportunity going forward. Hacking has become, a big thing now. So cybersecurity stocks are something we should be taking a look at. They may be the kind of stocks that are impervious to the market right now. And I was caught by this article in Investopedia yesterday that suggested that the stocks are headed higher. And they say to look at three things. Hack, which is an ETF that consists of a basket of 56 different cybersecurity companies with an expense ratio of 0.6%. So you could take a look at that. But if you're looking for pure plays, they say to take a look at Cisco, and they say to take a look at Splunk. So on my Twitter feed, I'm going to tweet that out. I don't know if I can do that from this browser here. I can't. But I'm going to tweet that link out so that you can read it. But I'm going to take a look at three stocks. And we're going to start with TipRanks, which is really my go-to when I'm looking at companies that I really have no familiarity with. And I'm going to look at Cisco, I'm going to look at Splunk, and I'm going to look at Cybertech, which is one that a friend of mine tipped me off about some time ago, and has turned out to be, would have been good, but now it's not. Anyways, Cisco Systems is rated neutral overall by TipRanks with their algorithm that looks at what analysts think, what investors on TipRanks think, bloggers, insider trading. So let's just take a quick look. What are the analysts saying? That it's a moderate buy with a price target of 52, and it's currently trading at 47. It's down $3 today. Wonder why. Blogger options are bullish. Hedge fund activity decreased. That's interesting to look at. TipRank investors seem to be very negative. News sentiment is bullish. The technicals are negative, and the fundamentals are mixed. Let's take a look at what insiders are doing. There's no trend detected in insiders. These are all actions that various insiders have taken, and many of them were today, but they're called uninformative sells because they may be just exercising their stock options, buying or selling stock options that were just gifted to them based on their performance last year. So we really don't have any informative insider transaction. Hedge funds. Hedge funds have decreased their holding by 5.4 million shares in the last quarter. Let's look at some of the better ones. Meisenberg, he added $300,000 of this stock. We could go in there and we could look when he did it. Ray Dalio, 3.4 million. Now that's important because Ray Dalio gets out of another one, Splunk, but now he's into Cisco. Who's another good one? Robert Olstein, well, he's a 3. Jim Chanos, you know him. He's added 1.8 million. Joel Greenblatt has added. So all the hedge fund managers have either added or new. So that's something to keep an eye on. That's a point in the favor of Cisco. Let's now go to cyber. Well, let's not. Let's look at our charts first. So Cisco, we're looking back in January 15, and we can take this point here for a bottom of, this is a weekly chart, daily chart, I'm sorry, the bottom of a move because it moved up and came back down to test it again. So it's a solid bottom. And we can take this as a solid top because it hit it twice before pulling back to the 78.6 on 2 occasions. I'm going to get rid of this 88.7. It's not a major Fibonacci. So we came back and we hit this 3 times. So this is a good Fibonacci. 114.6% is not a key Fibonacci. It's not a strong one, but nonetheless, it's played a role 1, 2, 3 times, including now. And 150% is where we started to have this pullback, this drawback. So this looks like the Fibonacci that we want to follow. We could also take a Fibonacci here to here and say, what are traders looking at just as a recovery from this down wave, and look at where we have correlations. It's important to look at correlations. 78.6 and 138.2 are the same. Let me just shade this here. 68.1 and 127.2 are the same. This 50% turned out to be important here and here. So I'm going to keep the 50%. So we have two really good sets of Fibonacci's that tell us that this stock is headed back up. Let's look at our other indicators. Let's take a look at the SMIs. They're both in the overbought area. And from a cloud point of view, we're looking at a breakout. So everything that we've seen so far from tip ranks, from the Fibonacci's, from the cloud, we're above the 200, tells us that CSCO is a good buy. Not good buy, but is a good stock to buy, except the SMIs. So let's take a look at volume profile. That's not here, it's working itself up here. The volume profile tells us the buying and selling that took place at various price levels. And because we're looking back to February of 2019, that's a lot of data to accumulate. And I'm probably on the wrong wireless network here for speed. And there we go. So let's zoom this in a little bit. So from this down wave here, most of the buying and the selling has taken place in this area here. In fact, we should actually, volume profile, we should actually show our value area where 70%, let's take 80%, where 80% of the trading has taken place. So 80% of the trades in this down cycle have taken place here. So 80% of the sellers took place here. With very little here, so there's probably a gap. So volume profile tells us that we need to watch for activity here. This is where most of the buying and the selling took place. So I'm going to say CSCO is a good one to look at. And because its price is reasonable, you know, we can buy a lot of shares and sell a lot of calls to hedge ourselves. So let's go to our next play. I'm going to stop this video after 10 minutes, and then there'll be a part 2. So let's go back here, and now let's look at CYBR. CYBR is a 6. Remember, CSCO was rated as a 7. CYBR is a 6. Analysts' earnings say it's a moderate buy. Hedge fund activity decreased. Let's go look at the insiders. Nothing particularly useful here. Hedge funds. He's not such a successful hedge fund manager. He's a half a star, so we're not going to look at him. So hedge funds have not been playing too much with CyberArk software. Did we look at the analysts? Analysts are saying hold 5 hours ago and buy 5 hours ago. And then others today hold, buy. So this confirms to us that cyber security is an area of interest. Do we prefer CSCO or do we prefer cyber? Let's take a look at cyber. Let's take a look at cyber. Here we are. This is the daily chart for cyber. We're stuck in the cloud, got a bounce off of the 200. Look at all of the volume yesterday, this big drop. And it doesn't look like they had earnings. Let's go back here to tip ranks and let's look at earnings. They're not telling us that there's any earnings that have recently taken place. Doesn't mean it hasn't, but it's not showing up here. But since we've got so many analysts that have come in 5 hours ago and today, they probably did report earnings. But one of them is a downgrade and a reiterated hold. So that downgrade isn't going to help it. No other downgrades that would have caused this drop. So we've got to look and find out why we had this drop. Let's look at our SMIs. And by that I mean let's take a look and see if there was some earnings yesterday or today. I'll leave that up to you because I'm not keen on this stock. Let's look at our SMIs. And they're both showing a downward trend. Let's take a look at the volume. That big spike yesterday. So there was some buying back here that moved it up. So not exciting. Let's go back and let's look at CSCO's volume. We didn't do that. Let's look at CSCO's volume. Some pretty good buying yesterday. So on this drop yesterday, on this drop today, we're going to take a look and see if we've got some buying opportunities coming in. Did CSCO report earnings? Let's go back to CSCO. Did CSCO report earnings? So there may be something wrong with tip ranks on their earnings. I'm going to pause this now and I'm going to go into part 2.